Hey, all y'all out there. Happy Friday. Tiffanie Kellog here with another episode of our Women Entrepreneurs Living Child Free. And I'm ecstatic to be joined by Bri Seeley. Bri, welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
And I'm excited to have you here. And you don't know this yet, or maybe you do, I don't know. But you are actually the first person that when I started sharing with others about, hey, I'm looking to connect with child-free women. Jennifer actually reached out and connected us. And so you were the first person that kind of came to me in this world and space by referral. So yay, excited to have you here with us.
Yay. And thanks to Jennifer for the introduction.
Yeah, Jennifer, and I know she said she might watch. So I'll be watching out for the chat to see if she's able to join us today. So Bri, why would Jennifer have thought of, okay, I've got to talk to Bri and connect her to Tiffanie when it comes to this child-free conversation? Can we start there today?
Yeah, I accidentally kind of started sharing my child-free story in 2014. I had just started writing for the Huffington Post, and I don't even know where I was or what I was doing, but I got this little inkling to write an article about being child-free. Because, this was 11 years ago. So still relatively not a lot of people were talking about it. Not a lot of celebrities were coming out and talking about it. And so I wrote this article thinking no one would read it. It went viral. It was read on every continent. It was republished in Spanish, French, and German. This article went far and wide. It was reshared by Elle and Vogue and all these places. And so that kind of sparked within me. And I had people messaging me saying, I didn't know that not having kids was an option. And I was like, what year is it? Because my grandma said that to me, but that was a different era. And now women are still saying that. Mm-hmm. So while it's not my official platform in business, I'm apparently my voice is powerful and women are craving to be accepted in how they are and what their desires are. And so I just started talking about it a lot. The Today Show called me 2 or 3 days later and asked me to be on there. And so I've just been very open and kind of outspoken about it. Not to say that no one should have children or that children are evil, but just to say that if you don't want them, you don't have to have them.
What do you think about it? Caught on so much that it went globally and got you on the Today Show. What about it? Because I can't fathom that you were the first one that's written about being child-free, but what do you think caught for people?
I think it was two things. One, I think that people who want children, first of all, do not understand women that don't want children. It's such a, natural, inherent, biological thing, right? All in quotation marks. And they just can't simply fathom that this would be a choice that a woman would choose. So I think that's part of it. And then I think the other part is the women who have always felt this way are, and will continue to crave to be seen and understood. So to hear the transparent voice of someone who's I broke up with my college boyfriend because he wanted kids and I didn't. I knew that young. I got sterilized at the age of 29. I've known that I told my mom at the age of 5 that I was never going to be a mom, right? So I think that women are craving to feel understood in their desires and normalized around it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you were having this conversation because I actually didn't know child-free was a designation, that there are people out there that have a name for not having kids, because I've always just been like, I don't have kids. No, I don't want kids. I'm good with it. Though I was surprised to learn, and this is all the little shameless promotion coming up, that August 1st is actually International Child-Free Day, which has been around since 1973.
That I didn't know.
I was like, I didn't know child-free was even a designation until, 6 months ago. And it's apparently been a thing since longer than I've been alive, not by much. But it's like, wow, there is something out there. So we are going to be hosting an event, y'all, August 1st, 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. You can go to Women Entrepreneurs Living Child Free. The link's in the ticker right there. So that's just my let me not forget, since it seemed to fit in well here, we're going to bring together all the women to have this conversation, to just work on growing our business and no mommy talk. Like, what about it in your mind? Why would you think that business women would want to come together without the moms?
I mean, I think there can be, and I've heard this from some people, is that like, oh, you don't understand how I need to grow my business or what I need to do in my business because, I have all these other responsibilities that you just can't comprehend as a child-free woman. And while I'm sure there is some element of truth to that, I'm like, my whole thing about strategy and success and business is less is more. So I'm not all about like, well, you need to do a million things every single day to grow your business. The truth is, there's probably 1 to 2 to 3 things a day that you need to do. And that I'm firmly in the camp of build your business to fit your life, not the other way around, right? So, I mean, I can get why there might be a difference in perspective of like what's on my plate doesn't look like what's on your plate. And personally, I feel like I'm particularly skilled at saying, I don't need to understand the intricacies of what's on your plate. I know you and I both have full plates, and I understand how to build and grow businesses with full plates, period. So I can understand it in a way. Yeah.
I do think that there is something that almost everybody always seems to be like, I'm not the same as everybody else because of, my business isn't like everybody else. And or my life isn't like everybody else. And it's so interesting that everybody feels like they're the ones that it's not the same, but sometimes it is, y'all.
My coach just said to me, she's like, everyone's so narcissistic in business in that they're like, oh my God, the economy is affecting my business. And she's like, well, like, you're not special. I'm also an Enneagram 4, which we literally think that we're one of a kind and special. Like that's just how we're designed, which is hilarious. But yeah, she said to us in a coaching call last week, she's like, none of you are special. Not, like everyone's facing the same stuff in business. Like, get over yourselves.
Love it. Love it. So Bri, it's been awesome talking to you already, but it's time, y'all, for me to start in with the bio. And if you've been tuning in for the past few weeks, I start on the bio and I don't think I've ever made it through in one go, but we're going to get started and see how far I make it. It ain't going to be far. So Bri, she's a TEDx speaker, a success coach, and an award-winning businesswoman who empowers high-achieving women to bring their boldest business visions to life without burnout or hustle. And I know you do have a tiny shift coming in your business. And so I definitely want you to tell us a little bit about the new shift you've got going on. However, that without burnout or hustle, because for a while there, it's all about the hustle, the grind, pedal to the metal. But you're saying let's not do that?
So I have been in I've been in this business. Now I had a fashion label prior to this business. So I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years. And I can tell you that I've done the hustle. I've done it. And I think that a lot of the narratives, especially in the online business space, has been this hustle mentality, right? Like if you just work hard enough, you'll get there. And I can tell you that I have worked hard enough. Like whatever enough is, I've done it. I've done it. And I've worked hard enough and I'm still not where I want to be. So I started having questions around, well, what if it's not how hard I work? Or what if last year I read 10x is easier than 2x twice. And
wait, was last year the 2x, 10x year? Because I didn't read it twice, but I read it once last year too. So maybe that's where our shifts are coming from.
I think I read it once in 2023 and then once in early of last year, something like that, right? But they talk about, and we all know this, 80% of your results are coming from 20% of your effort. And I'm like, okay, well, if I know that and we know that, why are we still doing the 80% that's not getting us any results or getting us minimal results, right? And I just started to really question, like, what am I doing with my life? Because my birthday's next week, and I have had to sit down and be like, if the next 42 years play out the way that the last 42 years have played out, and I'm 84, will I be satisfied with how I've spent my time and energy in my life? And the hard answer to that was no. So when I face questions like this and things like this in my life, and I've had clients say this to me too, is like, you can't unknow now what you know. And I'm like, okay, well, if I know that I don't want to repeat the last 42 years and that the hustle hasn't gotten me to where I want to be, and working harder is not an option for me, what are my options on the table? And so I told you I just got back from 3 weeks of traveling, and I sequestered myself for 2 weeks with a dog, 2 cats, and 16 chickens in the middle of Arkansas to remove myself from my everyday life, remove myself from my everyday stimuli, give my brain new information to start thinking in a new way. Yes, about how I have to make lunch because I'm in a kitchen that's not my own, but also about what's possible for me in business, right? So that's kind of, in a nutshell, why I'm going through a shift in business and why the hustle doesn't work. And I think what's next for me and a lot of other women, every other woman I'm talking to that's also been in business for 10 years, especially in the online space, is over it. Every single woman. I just put out a podcast episode this week about the entrepreneurial midlife crisis that I'm facing. And every single other business owner that I talk to is like, oh my God, me too. Me too. I just got an email from this woman. I'm on her list. And I emailed her back and I was like, girl, I've been talking about this for weeks. Everyone I know right now is facing it's almost like this fork in the road moment. And I'm not willing to go down the route that I've been down already.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you bring this up, because a lot of times people are like, okay, I'm 42, or I'm having a similar conversation with myself last week. I'm 46. And I'm like, is it too late to start over? And I'm like, I'm 46. I'm hopefully going to live another 46 plus years. You're 42. I hope I'm going to let another 42 plus. And so I think it says something that we're like, oh, I put this time, energy. I've always done it this way. Do I want to change? And to me, I don't think 46 is old at all, hopefully. And for perspective, my mom passed. She was days past her 46. She had just turned 47. So now it's an interesting point in my life of, this is what my mom got. And now what else do I have moving forward? And so it's kind of an interesting to think about, what else is here. And so I love the fact that you're like, yeah, this hasn't been bad, y'all. We are not saying it was bad the last 40 some years. It's how can it be better?
Well, and that's the question. And that's exactly what I talked about in my podcast episode from this week. And actually a little bit of what I'm talking about in next week's episode too, is it's not that things were bad, but it's also not that things were great either. And so it was okay, things aren't bad. I don't really have anything to complain about, but also I'm not where I want to be. So I'm in this weird purgatory space. And is that enough for me? Am I going to be satisfied and fulfilled if I stay in this spot? And am I sacrificing greatness for something that's currently good? So, I've been doing my journal is rife with all of this stuff, because these are the questions I've been asking myself lately. And I just keep coming back to the fact that there has to be a better option. There just has to be a better option. And again, not that good is bad, but I don't want to sacrifice great for something that I'm like, man, my life was mediocre at the end of it, yeah.
Yeah. Now it's interesting because I know you've got a shift not only in, life and how we're doing it, and it has something to do with brainwashing. Now, brainwashing isn't always a great thing that people think of, but tell us why brainwashing is good when it comes to being brainwashed by Bri.
Ooh, brainwashed by Bri.
Oh my gosh.
I love that. That's new. Okay, so I'm going to preface this by saying, y'all, this is very new, right? in a way, but also not in a way. I've been a certified hypnotherapist since 2017. So I've been doing this for 8 years, but I've been doing it behind the scenes with my clients. I've never really come out publicly and been like, I'm a hypnotherapist. So it's just always been looped into part of what I do with my coaching and consulting business. And what I realize over and over and over and over and over again is that we are all brainwashed. Every single one of us right now is brainwashed. If you're watching this, you have been brainwashed. You've been brainwashed by society. I mean, even the child-free conversation, we're all brainwashed to believe that we should have children.
Yeah.
We are brainwashed about a lot of things. And I would go as far to say, I would guess that at least 75% of what we've been brainwashed with is not empowering us. And it is not aligned with the life we're currently living, much less the life we want to be living. And so I started, again, like asking questions about like, well, I'm helping women essentially brainwash themselves for success.
Can we,
right?
before we get into how you're helping them, because I'm wondering how many people are really getting the brainwashing that we had. And so I'm wondering if we can, maybe brainstorm some examples. Like I'm thinking as a kid, how many of us, and I have a feeling us child-free women got this a lot, were told that we were bossy and we talk too much and we need to be quiet in class.
Yeah. I mean, all sorts of things. If any of the shows that we watched, my husband and I have gone back and started rewatching some old like 90s sitcoms. And I'm like, man, like this is what we watched when we were kids. And all of that, the thing about our subconscious is that before the age of 8, it is just a sponge. It just soaks in everything. So if you heard someone around you say, a woman's only job is to be a mother, her only value lies in being a mother. Women are seen and not heard. Or, there's so much programming out there. And to be fair, we love the generation that came before us. They were doing the best they could with what they had at the time and truly just doing what they had been taught by the generation before them. Yeah. I believe that we are in an era of cycle breakers. And being in an era of cycle breakers, we get to look at all that stuff and say, but is that actually true for me? And if it's not true for me, but I've been brainwashed to believe that it is true for me, then I have the responsibility to re-brainwash myself for what is true for me. Because our brain is just a record of the past and it just learns by repetition. So like Sharon made a comment on LinkedIn. She said she's 77. So she's had over 7 decades of repetition around what's true but may not be actually true for her, right? I'm 42. I've had 4 decades of repetition of things that may not actually be true for me. And as I'm realizing, again, with this hustle thing, like so many of us ambitious women tie our worth and our value to our productivity and how much we get done every day. Well, no wonder we have to-do lists that are 10 miles long that never get shorter. Have you ever noticed? It never gets shorter. No matter how much you do, right? Yeah. Like, what if we could re-brainwash ourselves to believe that our worth and our value actually isn't tied to how much we get done every day, but rather who we are and the impact and value that we bring to the world around us. Like, it's just, I love this conversation because we are all already brainwashed. And just like fish swimming in water, we don't know it because it's just been there all the time. Right. And we just blindly believe all of the words that our brain tells us without actually going in and saying, okay, but is that true for me? Is my value really tied to how much I get done every day? Is my value tied to being a mother? Is my value tied to, and if the answer to those things are no, again, you have a responsibility to yourself to re-brainwash yourself into what you actually want and what your definition of success is.
I love it. So can you give us one little tip or trick that we can begin to utilize in creating this positive space for ourselves? And it's so interesting and, working and growing ourselves. I think we are the hardest on ourselves. And so ladies and men, if you're watching this, when you're beating yourself up, ask yourself, like, would you say that to your kids if you have kids, or your nieces or nephews, or your siblings, or to somebody that you love? Like, would you say the things that you say to yourself? And I think a lot of times we are so hard on ourselves, and we deserve forgiveness. So y'all are forgiven.
Well,
Make it happen.
Where did that start? Who taught us that?
Yeah.
Like, we are not our habits. We are just a reflection of what we've been taught, right? Like, so who taught you to be hard on yourself? And is that actually how you want to treat yourself? Or is that just old conditioned habits from you being brainwashed by someone else who was hard on themselves or hard on you? Or I look at the world with so many possibilities, and I think about all the limitations that we put upon ourselves and how we can free ourselves from all these things. So how do we start to do this? Well, you can do this on a conscious level. I'm going to let you know it takes a much longer time frame. When I work with women, the hypnosis is 30 days. You want a new identity in 30 days? Like, that's what we work towards. If you're doing this consciously, it takes a lot more energy and effort. So I liken it to a garden. You have a garden full of weeds. The first thing you have to do is you have to go in, you got to pull the weeds. So you have to go back and look at what are the circumstances and situation and people and messaging and narratives and things that put these weeds in my head in the first place. Next, we till the soil. So you have to then shift the perspective and say, okay, is that actually true for me? And if it's not true for me, if that perspective came from a young version of myself or someone outside of me, then I get the opportunity to look at it in a different way. And then you get to plant what you actually want in that garden. You get to fill it with tulips and daffodils and gladiolas and coneflowers and all of the beautiful things you want. And that repetition, your brain learns by repetition. So like we mentioned, Sharon's mind has learned over 7 decades of repetition. So planting new seeds once in your mind is not going to work. You have to plant those seeds over and over and over and over and over again. Now, is it going to take Sharon 7 decades? No, it's not. We do this in 30 days, but it takes constant attention and like true diligence to be sifting through, okay, is that an old thought or a new thought? Because if it's an old thought, it needs to, again, be uprooted and taken out. If it's a new thought, great. We get to see that and continue reaffirming that within ourselves until it becomes our reality outside of ourselves.
And I love the garden example because I like to garden. I'm not great at it. However, I love it. I'm working on it. And it's a continuation. It's not I did it once. It's not I planted the seeds or I tilled. It is an ongoing process. And it's interesting. I think humans, we definitely feel this way about our body. Like I went to the chiropractor once. Why do I need to go again? And I had a massage. Why do I need to go again? And I'm like, maintenance. And I think people don't think the same way about their brain and the fact that we're ever changing and we have the ability to, which is brilliant, that we can at 77 make changes. People are making changes in their 90s and 100s. And I know there's people out there that are like, here's the plan to live to 120. And by the time we get there, who knows? Maybe it's 150. I don't know. Seems like a long time, but we'll see how it goes. We still got 50 years before we're dealing with it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And, I personally, I've had clients come to me at 60 and 70 and be like, how do I launch a business at this age? Or like, am I too old? Is it too late for me to, and I'm like, I personally have never fully resonated with the idea of retirement. My mom asked me a few years ago about retirement, and I was like, Eileen, I don't see myself really ever retiring. Will my lifestyle change a little bit? Maybe, but the idea that I have to suffer through something that I don't like right now in order to someday have a period where I just shut off my brain all day that's not a life that I think I will ever live. And so I'm like, I just love what I do every day now. And I don't see a time in the future when I don't at least somewhat do some element of it. Will it continue to look the same? No, it won't. Obviously, 10 years in, my business is transforming as it is. Like,
right.
But, I don't think that this idea that you get to a certain age now and life just like stops, or I don't know. I think that we're in a new era, and even, talking about being 46 and 42, the Golden Girls popped up not long ago, and it was looking at like the ages of what ages they were. And I was like, what? That is not what 50 looks like nowadays.
I'm like, they were how old? I'm like, I thought they were way older than that. Yeah. So I do remember them always saying Blanche was 49, but I just thought that was the joke, not that was close to what she was.
Yeah. And so to think about, us being 100 and not looking like our grandmothers is a very realistic possibility.
Yeah. Very true. Well, I know you have a little something for all the folks out here watching today. Will you tell us a little bit about some big goal energy?
Well, if you can't tell already, Big Goal Energy is my vibe. This is also the name of my podcast. And Big Goal Energy launched an app this year. So you can get the app on your phone. It is brand new. We are still working out a few little bugs. And you can get on there. You can access the community. There are free meditations. All of my podcast episodes are on there. There's resources on there. There's conversations happening. Any and everything you need to help you live your big goals, not just think about them, but actually live them, is in the app. I also currently have 5 hypnoses that are available for sale in the app. I have Your Future Self, a money mindset one, Your Definition of Success, Healing Burnout, and Getting Over the Fear of Failure. So if anything we've been talking about today resonates with you, those 5 hypnoses are available. And I have about 30 more that I'm going to be putting in there, all around things about like getting over perfectionism and procrastination, giving yourself permission to leap, like lots of big fun things coming. So join us in the app. You can see the link right here, briseeley.com/community.
And of course, you can find her stuff on her website. Where can we find you online if people like to follow and connect that way?
Literally, if you just search my name, I am everywhere and I come up everywhere. My handle is Bri Seeley everywhere.
It's so nice. I always joke, it's so nice that we are in that first generation of we got our names. For the new generations, it will be interesting to see what direction they end up going in. If social media is even still around, it may be a total different thing by then. Who knows?
I mean, part of me hopes that it's not still around. If we're being honest, that's been another 2025 shift for me. Is I'm tired. I'm so tired of social media. It's just so much. And like, I don't want a business that's reliant on social media, because I think it's an unstable foundation. Yeah. And I think it's just not reliable for business. So as much as
we have no control over it.
Exactly. So that's kind of the other shift and pivot too, is I'm also building another like physical business in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But my whole perspective now too is like building exitable businesses, because yes, do I see myself still being in business in 42 years from now? Yes, I do. And, I don't know. The exitable business thing is new to me. And I'm like, oh yeah, that one, I want to do that, more of that.
Right. It's like, yeah, let me do this. And whether it's, okay, let me say like a 20% owner or 10% owner or residuals, like how do I create that to where it's done? And then I can go and move on to whatever I want next.
Yep.
So speaking about next, we are beginning to wrap up, y'all. It's time to move on to the next thing. I want to say, Bri, thank you so very much for being here with us today. Is there any last message that you'd like to leave the ladies with?
I mean, the only thing I would say is whatever those desires are within you, whether it's being child-free, whether it's having a profitable business, whether I don't know what your dreams and desires are, but I want to be a living example to you to let you know that they're possible. And I believe not only possible, I believe they're inevitable. And so give yourself permission to say yes to those desires. Give yourself permission to trust that little whisper that's inside of you, guiding you towards that. And know that it's probably whispering to you because it's your truth. And it's just up to you to decide whether or not you actually want to trust it and move forward with it.
Well, Bri, I want to say thank you so much for being here with us today, for sharing your wisdom, talking about brainwashing. If y'all are enjoying watching this and you are that child-free woman entrepreneur, come hang out with us in our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/women entrepreneurs living child-free. We would love to have you hanging out with Bri and I as we do some networking, we do some connecting. Thank you so much, Bri, for being here. Thanks, y'all, for watching. See y'all next week here at Women Entrepreneurs Living Child Free. Happy networking, y'all.